All right, so today we're really going to get into the career of David Hayes. And, this article you found, it's incredible.
Okay.
It's not like the usual, just like fight by fight breakdown. It's like we're getting into like Hayes' mind a little bit, his ambition, how he approached the business side of boxing.
Definitely, yeah.
It's like he was a strategist from day one.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you see that with some fighters. But hey, yeah, he was playing chess and everyone else was playing checkers.
Totally. Even as a kid, like there's this quote in here about wanting to be heavyweight champ, never even mentions cruiserweight,
Wow.
which is where he starts. It's like he skipped a step in his own mind.
And that's really interesting, right? Because moving up in weight class, that's a risk,
Huge risk.
bigger guys, bigger punches. But hey, he seemed to have that long game in mind from the beginning.
He wins that cruiserweight title, unifies 3 of the 4 belts against Mormac.
Huge fight.
Huge accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
But then he doesn't like take a break or anything. He goes straight into the Macronelli fight for the undisputed title. And it's like, if you're already on top, why even risk it?
Yeah, well, the article mentions that the Macronelli fight was Hayes' biggest payday to that point.
Oh,
So, there's the business savvy coming into play, right?
right.
He cements his legacy as the cruiserweight king and then sets himself up for, potentially even bigger paydays at heavyweight.
Right, because then the sky's the limit, right? 'Cause, like,
Exactly.
every fight was so calculated, like he was building towards something.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Valuev, that showdown, almost 100 pounds difference in weight.
I know, it's incredible.
It's insane.
David versus Goliath doesn't even cut it. And of course, Haye plays up that underdog angle brilliantly, calls Valuev the ugliest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, he knew.
Classic.
He knew how to get under people's skin.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure. But it wasn't all just talk, right? The article talks about how he used strategy accuracy, like he had to outbox Valuev.
Of course.
You can't just brawl with a guy that size.
No, you have to be smarter than that. And that's what's amazing is he showed his boxing IQ in that fight against Valuev. One wrong move, and it's over.
Oh, absolutely.
He had to be so patient, pick his shots, and really exploit any opening he could find.
Speaking of being strategic, let's talk about Hayemaker Promotions.
Okay.
He starts his own promotion company pretty early in his career. Was that common back then?
It was becoming more common for the, higher profile fighters to want to have more control over their careers. They saw the business potential in it. They didn't just want to be a fighter on someone else's card.
Right.
So by starting Hayemaker, Haye could negotiate better deals, choose his opponents, really build his own brand.
So he's a fighter. He's a promoter. Was there anything this guy couldn't do?
Well, his record's not perfect, is it?
Right.
There were losses, controversies, and that whole saga with the Klitschko brothers.
Well, don't even get me started.
Years of back and forth delays, trash talk. It went on forever.
It felt like every other week there was a new headline about Haye and one of the Klitschkos.
Right.
Was that calculated? Was that all just to build hype for a fight that seemed like it was never going to happen?
It's hard to say for sure, but you can't deny that it worked.
Oh, it definitely worked.
The public was captivated by that rivalry. And when the fight finally did happen, it was a massive event.
Everyone was watching. Huge.
Speaking of captivating events, we got to talk about that brawl with Derek Chisora.
Oh, boy.
That press conference. Was that staged? Was that real? Did they just lose their minds?
Honestly, who knows with those two?
Right.
Boxing thrives on that kind of drama, right? Whether it's real or manufactured.
True.
But planned or not, it got people talking.
100%.
And it led to a fight between them just a few months later. Which, of course, another big payday for Haye.
There it is again.
Exactly.
That business sense. Okay, so we've got Haye the businessman, we've got Haye the showman, but there's another side to his story that I think is really interesting.
Okay, yeah, what's that?
The Baloo fights.
Right. Haye's older at this point. He's coming off some losses. He has that brutal Achilles injury in the first fight.
Nasty injury.
But he keeps going.
I know, and that injury was awful. Most fighters would have called it quits right there.
Right.
But not Haye. He fought on one leg for several rounds. The article I read, I think someone called it Haye's finest night, even though he lost.
That's wild. It's like his determination, even in defeat, outshines the actual result of the fight.
Yeah, it really does.
And it says a lot about his character, I think.
It does.
It's not about winning at that point. It's not even about the money necessarily. It's something more.
It's that heart, right? That refusal to quit. It's what elevates athletes to another level.
Yeah.
They're pushing their own limits.
Testing themselves.
Absolutely.
Speaking of pushing limits, Haye's decision to go vegan back in 2014, that was a game changer, right?
Oh. Yeah, big time. Definitely. In the boxing world especially.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of vegan fighters. You know, particularly heavyweights.
Right. You think protein shakes, steak dinners, all that like old school, fuel for athletes.
Yeah.
And Haye goes all in on plant-based eating, even launches his own vegan protein powder line.
I know, right?
It's like he's always challenging expectations, whether it's in the ring or even like with his diet.
And don't forget, this was 2014. We're talking like plant-based diets weren't as mainstream back then.
Yeah.
So for a boxer of Haye's stature to embrace veganism, it really says something.
It does make you wonder, though, right? Did that mindset, that willingness to try something different, to not follow the crowd, did that affect his boxing too?
That's a good question.
You know what I mean? Like maybe those unconventional choices, going for heavyweight so early, starting Hayemaker, all the trash talk, the rivalries, it's like he was trying to do things differently.
Like he wasn't content with just being another champion.
Right.
You got to disrupt things.
Exactly. Shake things up. And it worked, Love him or hate him, you couldn't ignore David Haye.
No, you couldn't. He kept people guessing, kept the headlines coming, and ultimately I think he changed what it meant to be a boxer.
For sure. And even in retirement, he still keeps us guessing with those comeback fights after that first Baloo loss. Most fighters would have called it a career after that Achilles injury, but Haye comes back for more. Why? Was the money? Ego? What was it? It's tough to say for sure. But I think the article hinted at something more than that. There's this one quote from Haye that really stuck with me. He said, "Retirement's for people who are content with what they've done." And it's like, hey, he always needed another challenge, something else to conquer.
That's so true, though. It goes back to what we were talking about before, that ambition, that drive. It never really went away, even when he was technically retired.
Exactly. And maybe that's what makes David Haye so fascinating, you know? He was full of these contradictions, this incredibly skilled boxer, but also a savvy businessman, a total showman, but also this dedicated vegan, someone who clearly loved the spotlight, but also knew when to walk away.
It's true. It's like the article gives us these pieces of the puzzle, but we're still missing a few to see the whole picture.
Was he a brilliant marketer who just happened to be an amazing boxer, or was it all just genuine passion that he expressed in a way that made him a star?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think there's an easy answer.
Maybe it's a little bit of both. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you've got this incredible athlete, naturally gifted, but he's also got this sharp mind for business and self-promotion. It's almost like he understood the entertainment side of boxing as much as the actual sport.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's what made him such a draw. People tuned in not just for the fights, but for the personality, the drama.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally. It's like watching a really good movie.
Yes.
There's a script, some of it is orchestrated, but when it's done well, you get caught up in it. You're invested.
Exactly.
And Haye, he knew how to tell a story.
He did. He knew how to play the media. He knew how to use that trash talk to get in his opponents' heads and, create a buzz.
It makes you think, though, right? Where's the line between what's real and what's performance?
Right.
How much of what we saw was the real David Haye and how much was, carefully constructed?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we're not supposed to know the answer.
Right.
Maybe the point is that Haye kept us guessing.
Always one step ahead.
Exactly.
So we might never fully figure him out.
Probably not.
But I think one thing's for sure, after this deep dive, this guy was more than just a boxer.
Oh, absolutely.
Businessman, entertainer, disruptor. I mean, he challenged everything and everyone. He pushed boundaries, and he really made you rethink what it even means to be a champion.
He was a true original.
He was, wasn't he? Well, this has been fascinating. I'm glad we got to do this deep dive together.
Me too. This is fun.
Until next time.